billboards you drive past, the podcasts you listen to. It's just a constant, nonstop flood of messages all screaming for a little piece of your mind. It's a lot. And right there, that's the heart of the issue. Our brains, as amazing as they are, just weren't built to process all of that. They have a limited bandwidth. This crazy overload of information is exactly why our minds have to be so incredibly picky about what they actually let in.
To cope with this flood, we all unconsciously practice something called a psychic economy. Think of it like a mental budget, right? You only have so much attention you can spend in a day. So your brain is constantly picking and choosing what's worth the energy and what just gets ignored. It's a natural defense mechanism.
Now, this whole filtering system has a name: information processing. It's basically the journey a stimulus like a company's logo or a catchy jingle takes to get turned into something your brain can actually store and use later. And for anyone trying to get a message across, understanding this journey isn't just important, it's the whole game. So to really get a grip on this, we're going to follow a message as it tries to run a brutal 5-stage gauntlet. To have any real impact, every single ad, every piece of content has to survive this entire obstacle course to win a tiny bit of real estate in your mind. And here is our map for that journey. A message has to fight its way through 5 distinct gates: exposure, then attention, then comprehension, followed by acceptance, and finally, the big boss, retention. If it fails at any one of these stages, poof, it's gone, game over.
All right, let's start at the front lines. Before a message can even begin to persuade you, it has to survive the first, most brutal fight, just getting noticed in a world that is absolutely saturated with noise.
The very first hurdle is exposure. And yeah, it sounds simple enough. The ad just has to be physically there, right? Within range of your eyes or ears. But think about it. Out of the thousands of potential messages whizzing by you every day, you're only truly exposed to a tiny, tiny fraction. We are, whether we realize it or not, masters of selective exposure. This is one of my favorite real-world examples of just how powerful our ignorance is. A bank sent out a pamphlet to 120,000 of its customers, and just to see who was paying attention, they buried an offer for a free $10 bill in the fine print. So what happened? Are you ready for this? Not one single person claimed the money. That's how good we are at ignoring things. And you do this stuff all day long, probably without even thinking about it. Zipping through the commercials on your DVR, zapping to another channel the second an ad comes on, muting the TV, or, the most famous one of all, hitting that skip ad button online. These aren't just lazy habits. This is you actively curating what you allow into your own reality. Okay, so let's say a message gets lucky. It survives that first gate. It's in front of you. Now it faces the second and maybe even harder challenge: attention. It has to actually wrestle your focus away from everything else that's competing for it. Your thoughts, your to-do list, that notification that just popped up, everything. So how do they pull this off? Well, with some pretty clever psychological tricks. To grab your attention, they might use contrast, something that just breaks the pattern, like a stark black and white ad in a sea of color. Your brain just can't help but look. But to keep your attention, they might use closure. See, our minds are hardwired to complete patterns. When we see an unfinished sentence, we feel an almost irresistible urge to fill in the blanks. And boom, they've got you engaged for a few more seconds. All right, so a message used a clever trick. It got your attention. It's through the first 2 gates. But now it enters the inner sanctum of the mind, where it faces 2 much more personal tests. It has to be understood, and more importantly, it has to be believed. This brings us to stage 3. Comprehension. It's not enough to just see something. You have to get it. You assign a meaning to it based on your own culture, your experiences, your values. A great example is Patanjali's success in India. Their message worked because it tapped into something people already believed in and valued: Ayurveda and natural healthy living. The message was instantly understood because it fit right into their worldview. After comprehension comes acceptance. This is the moment where we decide if we actually agree with what they're saying. And this is so important. We are not passive sponges just soaking up information. We can understand an ad perfectly and still choose to actively reject it.
And we have a whole toolkit for fighting back. First, there's the counterargument. That's when your brain goes, yeah, right, I've tried something like that before and it didn't work. Or you could try source attack. discrediting the person delivering the message. That celebrity is just endorsing it for the paycheck. They don't actually use it. Or you might start support seeking, demanding more proof before you even consider believing the claim.
Okay, so a message has been seen, it's been understood, and maybe it's even been accepted. But we're not done yet. There is one final critical hurdle to clear. To truly succeed, it has to stick around. And this is the ultimate prize for any marketer: retention. This is when a message moves from your short-term awareness into your long-term memory. It stops being just an ad you saw and becomes part of your mental furniture, something that can shape your beliefs and choices weeks, months, or even years from now. So how do you get a message to stick? Well, it used to be all about the words, what we call word processing. But today we know what's even more powerful is imaginal processing, the mental images a message creates in your head. And the science on this is crystal clear. Pictures and visuals are just far stickier and easier for our brains to recall than plain old words.
So, after this whole journey through the 5 stages of the gauntlet, what does it all mean for you? Well, by understanding this process, you've essentially gotten a peek behind the curtain. You've been handed the marketer's playbook. Now you can see the game while it's being played.
So here are the key plays. You can now see why they use bright colors and jarring contrast. It's to win that attention battle. You'll understand that where they place an ad, its proximity is no accident. It's all about context. You'll spot them trying to align their message with your cultural values. You'll see their desperate fight to overcome your selective exposure, and you'll know that the smartest ones keep their message simple to avoid triggering that information overload defense.
And that really brings us to the final thought. Now that you know the playbook, now that you can see the science behind the sell, which ads are you going to see differently tomorrow? What tactics will suddenly jump out at you? The battle for your brain is always on, but now you're a much more informed soldier.